Hi, this is Nicolai Glazer with Pacific Sotheby's here in coastal Orange County. Today I'm going to give you a little case study, a story if you will, about a property that we recently closed on at 121 30th Street down on the Newport Peninsula, often referred to as the Balboa Peninsula. The history with these clients is such that when they contacted me and said, hey, we'd like to talk with you about selling our property. So this goes back about 3 years when these conversations first started. This property just happens to be on what we call the 100 block. It's about 7 houses away from the ocean, from the boardwalk down here on the Balboa Peninsula. And this is a 1940s cottage. And when I say a 1940s cottage, it's had some upgrades to it over the years, but largely a bit of lipstick here and there. Otherwise, it's an older property that has a lot of nuances and it could use quite a bit of TLC. There's a cottage, 2-bed, 1-bath in the front of this. Then you've got a unit over the garage in the rear, and it's just an old property that most people might think is just a teardown. So the two things that stand out the most with this property is one, its location, being in the 100 block, and then the second specific nuance, call it a nuance, but the benefit of this property is that it has a short-term rental permit. In the city of Newport Beach, if you've got one of these coveted short-term rental permits, it's kind of like having Willy Wonka's golden ticket. This property, the way it acts essentially is as a duplex or 2 units, and there's one short-term permit that would ultimately live with the front cottage unit. And so we've got short-term renters coming and going with this property every 2 to 5 days. So understandably, when you've got a high turnover of tenants coming and going in with the property, you need to understand what your ability is to get in and show it and or do other activities at the property when it's not occupied. Market value on this property 2 years ago arguably could be somewhere in the $2.5 to $2.8 million range. The owner had at the time said he wanted $3 million. So we listed at $3 million and he was just going to stick to his price. At the time, the property did not sell. So we ended up taking it off the market. Fast forward 2 years, the owner calls me back up and says, hey, we really want to sell the property. What do you think we should do? Trying to understand a process of, okay, do we do more of the same in a market which is somewhat slow right now and buyers are picking apart every property? I suggested to the owner that we price it at $2 million. Now, this process is not for every property and it's not for everybody, to be honest with you, because I took a property that's worth $3 million and priced it at $2 million. I'm sure you can imagine that my phone practically melted down after the property hit the market. Now, we did put special notes in the listing, obviously identifying that we were strategically pricing it below market, but what unfolded from there, I really didn't expect. The timeline with the listing for this property, it was actually pretty interesting because what we had the opportunity to do, because I had all of our marketing already together from when we had the property listed back in 2024, the owner said, hey, I'm going to follow your lead on this. So we could literally have the property on the market within a day, which is not normal. And because it's a short-term rental and they have high turnover and the cleaning crews coming through, the property was essentially turnkey and ready to go. So that's what we did. We put it on the market on day 1. So as we worked through the process and buyers that were serious with the property, then we had probably somewhere in the range of 6 to 8 offers that we were able to then fine-tune some of the details and land with our buyer. I think one of the biggest challenges that we faced with this property is that ultimately we were looking for a premium for a property that had its issues. It's an older property that is really a candidate to be torn down and or a major renovation project. So somebody that understandably was going to come in and have the know-how and the capital to be able to either do that major renovation or to tear it down and start from scratch. So we get to a point here in the conversation where I understand the peninsula. I understand the city of Newport Beach. I understand how it works related to short-term rental permits and just the nuances with some of these old cottages and duplexes down in the Newport area. Really led to the success of preparation and understanding how to manage through these conversations, either with other agents or buyers that had large ambitions of potentially purchasing this property. So today's marketplace is not about speed. It is about buyers having more options and more opportunities to make decisions about what they want to buy, when they want to buy it, and how much they want to spend. So although we're not in a marketplace where there's a glut of inventory, buyers have those choices to choose from. Just so happens with this property, it's in a very desirable area on a very desirable street and location. So that worked in our favor, but we were still up against some of the headwinds of the marketplace and knowing that buyers are really scrutinizing every property. So we really had to use this pricing strategy, in my opinion, which was risky, to ultimately have the success that we had. If you're a homeowner thinking about putting your home on the market today, you need to understand where you're going to be positioned. What is the value proposition of your property? And truly leaning into who is that area expert, who is that professional advisor that you're going to bring in and have an understanding about where your home is going to fit into the marketplace, and then pricing accordingly. There are so many things that are taken into consideration when you're putting your home on the market. So having an advisor to help guide you through each one of those steps, the nuances, how to work through that process, and just truly having somebody to guide you through that process is really important, and don't underestimate the value of that professional. Appreciate you coming by to listen to our case study for this property down on the peninsula, down at 121 30th Street. This was an absolutely knock it out of the ballpark successful sale. So not your typical home sales process, but I appreciate you listening to the story. If you ever have any questions or real estate related advice that I can support you with, please don't hesitate to reach out, and have a wonderful day.